All right, good afternoon, Mr. Stewart. See, there you are. Sir, would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number.
My name is Eldridge Stewart. 302-791.
Mr. Stewart, you're here before the pardon board this afternoon seeking a commutation of your sentence. You were sentenced in January 2001 to a life sentence for a first-degree murder conviction. I do see you are represented by counsel this afternoon. Would you enter your name into the record?
Good afternoon, Jasmine Cole with the Parole Project, representing Mr. Eldridge Stewart, and with the board's permission, I'd like to make a brief statement at the end.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Stewart, we do have Mr. Kerry Myers from the Parole Project who will be speaking on your behalf. Your sister, Ms. Wahira Spears, will be speaking. Your mother, Vivian Sharper, will be speaking for you. And also participating, Althea Bradford and Terrell Bradford. Your daughters are also here in support. Your case this afternoon, Mr. Stewart, has been assigned to Mr. Alvin Rosa. Seated to my immediate left, he has a presentation and will be asking you some questions.
Yes, ma'am.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Good afternoon, Mr. Stewart. How are you?
How are you, Mr. Roche? I'm doing pretty good.
Good. Mr. Stewart, I want you to sit back, relax, and we're going to have a conversation.
Yes, sir.
There's nothing to be nervous about, okay?
Yes, sir.
Madam Chairman, fellow board members, we have Eldridge Stewart, POC number 302-791. Mr. Stewart is here today seeking a recommendation for a commutation of sentence for a 2001 conviction of first-degree murder in the death of Bruce Z. Caraway in March of 2000. He was originally arrested and charged with 2 counts of attempted second-degree murder on March 14, the year 2000. The victim, Bruce Caraway, succumbed to his wounds on March 18, 4 days after the shooting. Mr. Stewart was rebooked and charged with second-degree murder. The DA's office in Orleans Parish refused the second-degree murder and charged and indicted Mrs. Stewart on first-degree murder. On February 9, 2001, Mr. Stewart pled guilty as charged with first-degree murder and was sentenced to natural life at DOC without benefit of probation, parole, or suspension sentence. Mr. Stewart is currently 49 years old. He will be 50 in December. And at the time of the offense, he was 27 years old. Opposition in this case is not a very strong opposition. The judge, Robert Pittman, had no comment. The Orleans Parish District Attorney's Office had no comment. The Sheriff's Office had no comment. And the Warden Superintendent of Police has a blanket opposition policy to all clemency cases. So the only opposition you have is from the Superintendent of Police in Orleans Parish, and that is a blanket opposition. The real opposition that you have in this case comes from Mrs. Dorothy Caraway, the victim's mother, who is strongly opposed to any clemency in this case. In Mrs. Caraway's statement, in her statement, she is representing the entire Caraway family. Mr. Stewart has a low risk assessment. He has a low needs assessment. He's housed in minimum custody. He has a good institutional record. All the facility staff has positive complimentary remarks about the applicant. He has earned a GED in 2007 after entering incarceration with a 10th grade education. He has earned college credit. His current job assignment is a re-entry mentor with the Angola re-entry program, one of the most prestigious job assignments at Louisiana State Penitentiary. His prior job is with Prison Enterprises at the CDC warehouse. Excuse me. He has a carpentry diploma from the Louisiana Technical College. He is certified in concrete finishing with the National Center for Construction and Education and Research. He is also a registered tutor for the GED program. Let me go over some of the programs that he's completed during his incarceration. He has just finished a class with the Trauma Healing Institute in August of 2022. He's currently enrolled in a 24-week program with Celebrate Recovery. How is that program going?
It's doing great, sir.
Okay, what have you got out of Celebrate Recovery?
The biggest thing I got out of Celebrate Recovery is the fact that they want you to face your destructive behavior. It's more than just a drug program. It's geared more or less towards everything. Any destructive behavior that you have is good for it. It helps you to find, if not coping mechanisms, actual remedies for your problems.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about your Tyro's leadership training.
The Tyro leadership training?
Yeah.
Yes, sir. With Tyro leadership was a real fun activity. They taught us skills on coming down and actually working with the guys and then getting them engaged in actually making learning fun for these guys. They gave us all of the skills that we need to actually help them move forward. In the process, they actually taught us some things about ourselves. They have the evaluation that we have to do. We go through a real-time evaluation, basically. They want you to talk about your feelings, about your past, write a letter, basically talking about your trauma, people that you would like to make amends with. And we're here because of the people I wanted to make amends with, Mrs. Caraway and the Redden Caraway family, and the Jefferson family. So it was a great class, sir.
Thank you. You also completed a class in financial peace.
Yes, sir.
Moral compass in a 12-step program.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for a change. You have been recertified in CPR. I think you originally got your CPR training in 2004 or 2005. You've been recognized as an outstanding mentor in the recreation program. You participated as a facilitator in finding higher ground. You've completed 100 hours pre-release. And I said before, you have certification with a 24-month course in Inmate finishing. You participated in the drama club. You had a role in the Life of Christ in 2013. You have a carpenter diploma. You participated in Malachi Dance, I think as a facilitator.
Yes, sir.
You completed faith-based programs, being transformed, experiencing God, live like Jesus, inside out dance, speaking when to speak to God, and many, many more, anger management, raging, character range. Involvement, leadership builders ministry. You're a trainer in the park program.
Yes, sir.
Training dogs to work with the disability. You're a facilitator with the Malachi Dads, and you're a member of the Angola's Lifers Association. And I said before, you are a mentor with the reentry program and a GED tutor. Work with HIV, AIDS, peer education, care worker, and you've been a hospice volunteer since 2018. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And let me get back to my presentation. Besides everything I've mentioned, there's many, many other programs, vocational, educational, and spiritual. Is there any, briefly,
Yes, sir.
any other program, educational, vocational, or spiritual that meant a lot to you?
Well, the Point Lookout Project, I'm a member. I'm one of the guys that actually go over and we do the Point Lookout Project. We help the guys that don't have family members that come up. We give them a decent burial. Sometimes we dig the graves. We're the pallbearers at times. And we stand in for the family members if necessary. So that is my favorite.
How long has been membership with the Point Lookout Project?
Since the beginning of the pandemic, sir.
You've been there since 2020?
Yes, sir. I was at CDC warehouse, and as soon as I made it back, I was already on the roster. When I made it back to the dormitory, we went back to work.
And let me, while you mention that, let me mention that Mr. Stewart was one of the trustees that was vetted during the COVID-19 pandemic to be housed at the warehouse of the needs of the warehouse for prison enterprises. And he received a certificate and letter of appreciation for his work during the COVID-19 pandemic. You want to say something, Mr. Stewart?
I was trying to hear what you were breaking up, sir.
Oh, I was breaking up. I was
Yes, sir.
just saying how you were selected and vetted by Prison Enterprises as one of the trustees that was housed at the warehouse
Yes, sir.
during the COVID-19 pandemic. They had enough trust in you that they trusted you to live at the warehouse so it can maintain its flow of supply to various facilities.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Stewart has an excellent transition plan with the Louisiana Parole Project with housing and employment. I did not see any permanent transition plan after you leave the Louisiana Parole Project. What is your permanent transition plan? Who you live with and where will you seek employment?
Well, after I fulfill my duties with the parole project, I plan to live with my sister, Quahira Spears, I'm sorry. And I have 2 degrees, one in carpentry, one in concrete finishing. I'm also a PAWS trainer, so the dog training business seems to be a very lucrative business right now. So any of those avenues, I'm planning to see.
Very good. Disciplinary conduct. Mr. Stewart had a total of 15 disciplinary write-ups in 22 years of incarceration. Not good, not bad, average. But he's only had 1 write-up in the last 14 years. And that was on March 14, 2013. Number 10 for fighting. Tell the panel about the incident where you were written up for fighting.
I had an altercation with a guy named Timothy Alford. We had an argument, poor judgment on my behalf, and we had a fight. Since the fight, I found out what I was doing wrong. I did the program and I did everything. My biggest thing was I was missing a relationship with God. After the fight, I rededicated myself to Christ, and I've been moving forward ever since. I went up since the fight. That was my last altercation. It was a struggle. It was one of those weak moments. And I built myself up to where there's no more weak moments.
That was 9 years ago, Mr. Stewart.
Yes, sir.
And I tend to believe you because of the 15 disciplinary write-ups you've had in 22 years, seven, about half were for fighting or an aggravated fight.
Yes,
So
sir.
you had anger management problem.
Can you say that again, sir?
You had anger management problem.
Yes, I did, sir.
And I think you've solved the problem. You've taken anger management.
Yes, sir.
And you had a write-up in the last 9 years.
True.
Where in the first 13 years, you had 7 write-ups for fights. Now, let's go over your police record. Your first arrest was in 1990.
Yes, sir.
Aggravated discharge of a weapon and aggravated battery
Yes, sir.
with a dangerous weapon.
Yes, sir.
1991, resisting arrest by flight, illegal possession of an auto, and theft.
Yes, sir.
Simple battery in 1992. In 1993, aggravated battery. And then these charges was the next arrest in year 2000. So you did have an anger problem.
Yes, I did, sir.
Aggravated battery, charges involving firearms.
Yes, sir.
So after that write-up in 2013, tell us briefly now, tell us what experience did you have that made you realize that you were at fault and you had to correct?
Actually sitting in the dungeon for the fight, honestly, I felt like a fool. I was like, I was fighting too hard to change, to do things better. And after that slip, after that mistake, I was sitting in the dungeon searching for answers. I prayed on it. And after that, I dug into programming. I dug into the programs that you guys had after the anger management. Thinking for a Change was a beautiful. The tip training. I dug into everything that I could to help myself, sir.
Now, Mr. Stewart, did alcohol or drugs play any part in your criminal history?
No, sir.
You've never used drugs?
I have drank, I have smoked marijuana, but the night I committed this crime, and I was not high, I wasn't drunk, anything.
Mr. Stewart, you murdered a man over a game of cards.
Yes, sir.
They accused you of cheating. So you left, puffed up, because you had an anger management problem, and you returned about 20, 30 minutes later under the pretense that you were all right. You understood, and you were fine. But when the victim and his girlfriend returned, you opened fire on both and injured the girlfriend, and 4 days later, the victim succumbed to his wounds that he received on March 14, year 2000. What was what were you thinking about when you went home or went to a car and you got a firearm and came back with the intent to injure an individual?
First of all, sir, in the course of this answering this question, I may say some stuff that may offend the Caraway family or may hurt them even more. And I want to apologize for that in advance. But when I left this,
let me stop you there. Try to explain that and take responsibility for your actions.
I am, sir. My action was stupid. It was all I knew. Mr. Caraway lost his life because of my stupidity. It's one of the worst mistakes I made in my life. I took a life. And it's the worst thing I could have ever did. Worst mistake I made. And because I took the life, I turned myself in. Because of Mr. Caraway's wound, I turned myself in. When I found out Mr. Caraway died, that crushed me. I turned myself in. January night, I didn't send his family through a trial or all the long, unnecessary stuff because I was guilty. I shot and killed Mr. Bruce C. Caraway, and I owned up to it. I came to Angola to fix me. I needed help. I've been fighting and shooting for most of my life, doing all kind of wrong. I needed help, and I came to Angola to get it. So because of the programs that y'all had, I've been fixing me. And the words can't express how I feel. Everything I did was wrong. From that point, from the time I left my house, I was home. I could have stayed in my living room, slept it off. Everything would have been all right. You guys wouldn't be here. None of these people would be here. Everybody's here because of my mistake. And I understand that. Victim awareness taught me that. I did that. So I have no choice, sir. I took my responsibility in January 9th, and I'm taking full responsibility right now.
Thank you, Mr. Stewart.
Thank
And
you.
you're a very wise young man because you just took the advice of an old guy and took responsibility for your acts.
Thank you, sir.
Now, I'm finished with my presentation, but I have to talk to Mrs. Stewart for a second. Mrs. Stewart, I'm in a dilemma. I am really in a dilemma. You have served your incarceration very well. You came into Louisiana State Penitentiary with a 10th grade education, and 4 or 5 years later, you had a GED, college credits. You have done a marvelous job with your incarceration. My dilemma is that you've only served 22 years of incarceration. You've only served 22 years of incarceration. I can make a recommendation, community sentence to 99 years with parole eligibility after serving 25 or 30 years.
Yes, sir.
Because I think you deserve some relief. But because of the current legislation in the state of Louisiana, I can make a recommendation that you be commuted to 99 years with parole eligibility after 50 years. And it's signed by the governor, and instantly, because of the Louisiana legislation, you'll be immediately eligible for parole. Because there's a law on the book saying if you're 45 years old and you serve 20 years of a 500-year sentence, you are eligible for parole. I have to decide in the next 10 minutes whether I'm going to commute your sentence and you will be, and the governor signs it, and you will be automatically eligible immediately. Or whether I'm going to deny you and let you serve the appropriate time for a first-degree murder of a human being. And as an intelligent and spiritual person, you do understand that, don't you?
Yes, sir.
So, Madam Chairman, I will ponder over my recommendation, and I will give the board members a recommendation at the end of this interview.
Thank you, Mr. Roche. Warden Falvey, is there anything you'd like to add?
To add that he in the last few years, especially with COVID, there were a number of offenders that, I guess for lack of a better term, we did kind of throw around. We put them in jobs because it was institutional need. Eldridge is one of them that went to CDC, lived there, made sure that that operation continued when we had to kind of splinter this up through that time. Never complained, never did anything such as that. Has been a reentry tutor for us now. The work that he does in the last couple of years with the PAWS program as far as training dogs, that has been a very positive thing, not only for the offenders that are training the dogs, but a lot of the other offender population as well as the community. So he's done a very good job for us.
Thank you, Warden Falvey. Ms. Roche?
Warden Falvey,
Yes, sir.
I apologize for not calling on you. I got involved in the presentation and forgot about my friend.
No worries, Mr. Roche. No worries.
Okay. Could we hear from the Parole Project, Mr. Myers?
Yes, good afternoon. Board Kerry Myers, Louisiana Parole Project. I think there's a word that can be used in this case, and that's trajectory. From the day Mr. Stewart got to Angola, arrived at Angola, his trajectory has been nothing but up. And it's been remarkable. This is an exceptional case, I think, and an exceptional man who has, despite his actions that brought him here, has shown that his trajectory, not only in attitude, his outlook on life, his heart is up and continuing to go up. This is also a perfect example of what, the Department of Corrections, Public Safety and Corrections being the optimal word here, is important. You can't, you can bring a horse to water. Well, I can tell you that Mrs. Stewart has drunk the water, all of it. And this is exactly, given the opportunity what the Department of Corrections can do, he's a perfect example of what can come through that. I know this may be difficult for you, Mr. Roche, to make this decision, but I can only encourage you to make this recommendation today. This is an exceptional case, and his trajectory is up. And Parole Project stands behind him to support him in every way we can. So thank you.
So we'd like to hear from Mr. Stewart's mother, Ms. Sharper.
Hello?
Ma'am, we can hear you.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I am the proud mother of Eldridge Stewart. The young man that sits before you today is not the young man at 28 years old that his crime brought him to Angola. My son has always been a caring, loving person, but being where we're from, not trying to make any excuses, he lived the way he thought he should have lived, and I could have been better with his decisions. My heart, and I promise you, I pray this just about every day, goes out to the Jefferson family and the Calloway family for their loss. But the young man that's sitting there today, he walked in Angola, in my opinion, as a boy. The man that sits before you today is a grown man. He's always had good in his heart. He's always tried to do right by people, but he did have an anger problem, and I tried to get him help with that. So if you all would grant this pardon for my son, I could promise you all my life, you all will hear only good things about him. This is not a show. This is truly the man he is. This is truly the person he has been born to be. And I thank God every day for taking my son off the streets and putting him in Angola, because Angola grew him up. It really grew him up. I mean, I hardly recognize my son. He's just so beautiful. And he has a heart of gold. He really does. And I thank you all for granting him this opportunity. And thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sharper. And Ms. Quahara Spears, Mr. Stewart's sister.
Hi, yes, I'm Quahara Spears. I am the youngest sister of Eldridge. For the past 11 years since my husband and I separated from the military, I have developed an extremely close relationship with my brother. We talk often through visits, phone conversations, JPay emails, video connect calls. And there's no disputing what he did that night was horrible. And in the past, he's made some seriously poor decisions. With that being said, I believe that he has matured, and if given the opportunity, he will be a productive member of society. My brother has shown enormous guilt throughout our conversations, throughout our prayer time, throughout our Bible study time. He's taken sole responsibility for his actions. I believe that his inability at the time to understand and control his emotions was a great contributor to the decision that he made that night. Since being incarcerated, as you all have pointed out, he has dealt with his anger problems and his poor emotional control by taking anger management courses, learning how to better cope, how to better communicate through difficult situations. I believe that he now realizes how harmful his actions were and how long lasting the impact on the victim's family as well as his family were by his actions on that night. However, today he is in a much better state. As you guys have stated also, he has completed his education, his GED, he's taken college courses. He has also attempted to understand his own behavior and why he has that behavior. He's attempted to understand and empathize much better with others. He recognizes his triggers. He knows now how to pause and use logic before acting on a situation. And I believe he has a great commitment in giving back to the community, and not only in his self-development and his growth, but in those around him. If granted release, my family and I, including my husband and my 2 daughters, are prepared to offer my brother a home, any financial assistance that we can offer him, assistance with finding his own independent housing, as well as employment and counseling. I have also been in touch with Catholic Charities in New Orleans that have also stated that they can help with housing and food and employment. As far as any type of transportation needs, my husband and I can take him places. We also plan to buy him a bike. We also plan to make sure that he has monthly bus passes for as long as he needs him to be able to get to any obligation or anything that he needs. And lastly, I just want to emphasize that I do believe that my brother he's a better person. He's a different man. He's a man that I'm proud to call my brother. And if I didn't believe that, I wouldn't be here in support of him today. That's all I have. Thank you.
Spears, thank you. Speaking with us this afternoon. Mr. Stewart, I think they call you Big Stu, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
Is there any statement you'd like to make to us before we turn it over to your attorney?
Yes. First of all, I understand that we're here because of me. Everything I did on March 12th caused this whole, everything here. You know, I want to, if I may, I'd like to apologize to the Caraway family, Jefferson family, for the pain I caused them. I pray for them consistently. I have a prayer that I pray for them all the time. It's a hard situation. I understand what happened. And it's hard for me to express to you all exactly how I feel in words. Everything I've done since I've been here is what I call an active apology. It's my way of just doing things without having to say what I did. I'll try to do my best to walk it out. So, and I will continue. If granted, well, honestly, regardless to the outcome of this hearing, I'm gonna keep moving forward. Ms. Caraway asked me to come to Angola and do something with myself when I talked to her in the judge's chambers. And that's what I've been doing. And I plan to continue doing that. You mind if I say the prayer that I say for them?
Go ahead.
Father God, I ask you, I come to intercede on the behalf of the Caraway and Jefferson family. It's been a long and hard road for them. And I ask that you take them up and comfort them in your arms, Father God, and grant them peace and rest. In your daughter, son, Jesus' name, I pray. Amen. Thank you, ma'am.
Ms. Cole.
Thank you. Mr. Stewart committed a serious crime, one that he has taken full responsibility for. But the crime that he committed is not indicative of the man that he is today. When we think about incarceration, there's a major focus on rehabilitation. And very early on, Mr. Stewart began making the necessary changes to become the man that you see today. He's been a Class A trustee for more than a decade. He's participated in countless programs, and he took what he learned from those programs and he mentors to others. And even to this day, he continues to take programs. He's worked in very trusted positions throughout his incarceration, including places and opportunities where he's been outside of Angola. He's worked in the COVID stakeout team, the disaster remediation team, and all of these positions, he's had little to no supervision. And it has not even been an issue with the institution. As you've seen in his packet, he's had institutional support upon institutional support for the work that he's done. And he tries to give back to his community through his mentorship, his leadership, his teaching, his coaching, and as a friend. And he also has the support of Parole Project. So we ask that the board reflect on the accomplishments that he has done in the time that he has done it, and give him a chance for release. He has dedicated his sentence to his active apology, and he hopes that the things that he's done over the years has been a testament to that active apology. And we now ask that you grant his request. Thank you.
And thank you. I think we are prepared to vote.
I'd like to move for executive session.
We have a motion for executive session. Is there a second?
Yes.
We have a second by Mr. Roche. Is there any objection? Hearing none, be an executive session to discuss confidential matters. Stand by. We'll be back in just a few moments.
This has been intense. This is a tough one. Man, I really wonder what they're going to say on this one. What's interesting is that we just haven't heard anything from the actual victims. We haven't heard any. We know that there's a broad blanket of objection. What's the word I'm looking for? Opposing, but there's not. We haven't. It's hard to get the emotional when you don't hear a father or a mother speak, or a brother or a child. It does seem like he really had an anger problem. He was so he was 27 years old. He wasn't a little kid. He served 22 years. So if you remember Mr. Roche, he was saying, I think it was a mistake. He said, if I change your sentence, so it would be that you would serve 20 of 500 years, but I think you meant to say 20 of 50, right? So with the new legislation, if he were to change his sentence to a 50-year sentence, it would then make him immediately eligible for parole, which then if the governor signs it, he would then get paroled. So he'd really be going from a life sentence to a 50-year sentence, then to getting paroled. What do you guys think? You think they're going to grant it? Well, we can skip ahead a little bit here. I think they're going to grant it. That's just where it was shifting. That was a beautiful prayer, and I do believe he's remorseful. That's the first time I've heard someone actually talk about a prayer they've created. Although he was about to say something to put the man he's killed name through some mud, and Mr. O'Shea stopped him in his tracks, and to his credit, or to quote Mr. O'Shea, he listened to an old man, and that was a good move. For as old as some of these board members are, they still have quick wit. Mr. O'Shea moved pretty quickly on that one. just don't want to skip it to 326. It's gonna come up.
Stewart,
Okay.
we are back in regular session and we are prepared to vote. Mr. Roche will be voting first. 331.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes, sir.
you've interviewed very well this afternoon.
Yes, sir.
See a young man who is fully rehabilitated. I see a man that had a violent write-up in 9 years. And we all can agree that you had an anger management problem.
Yes, sir.
Even your mother recognized that you had an anger management problem way back. And she tried to solve it for you. But I don't think it was until you were sitting in a dungeon, like you said, that you realized that you were the problem. And you had to do something about it. I don't think that you are a danger to public safety any longer. I think that you've done everything possible to rehabilitate yourself. So I have come up with a decision. That decision and recommendation to my fellow board members is that we commute your sentence to 99 years and let the Department of Correction calculate when your parole eligibility date will be. That is my decision.
Thank you, Mr. Roche.
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Maribel.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. Mr. Stewart, you've done an excellent job while you've been in prison.
Thank you, sir.
Your mother, you have indicated that, this is the best thing that could have happened to you. You've learned a lot. You've taken advantage of every opportunity you've been given. Excellent recommendation from the warden. My vote likewise is to commute your sentence to 99 years. Good luck to you.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Freeman.
I concur with my colleagues and I'll vote to commute to 99.
Thank you, sir.
Jackson.
Ms. Stewart, you've done very well. You've made your family proud, and you should be proud of yourself for what you've accomplished. I vote to recommend a commutation sentence to 99 years. Good luck.
Thank you, ma'am.
And Mr. Stewart, I've never seen the number of letters from prison officials and staff that I've seen in your packet. That speaks very loud. Thank you for the work that you've done. My vote is the same. So on your behalf, we're going to make a recommendation to the governor that your sentence be commuted to 99 years. Good luck to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank y'all. You bless.
After that concludes our business at your facility. Thanks for accommodating us today. It is 3:34. We will adjourn.
Oh, and that's it. Well, I guess never seen so many letters. Is that the way it ended? And
I think that you've done everything.
that's an exaggeration. I believe that that's true. So, like again,
Same. So on your behalf, we're going to
Sorry. Without the objection, it's like without the opposing family, without hearing or seeing a mother cry or a relative cry, it's very, very, very hard just not to be really happy that he got paroled. Now, I mean, when you do line it all up, the prison system is put in place to punish and to rehabilitate. And in this case, he has served 22 years. He has been punished and he has been rehabilitated. I tried finding news on the case. I couldn't find anything. This does seem like one of those situations where it's just like a statistic. It wasn't so much of a news story, just another man dead. And can't even find it in Google, you know? But it does seem to come from a good family. Listening to his sister speak, listening to his mother speak, he just something went wrong. He does have a bad temper by everyone's admission. He has proven in prison over, was it 9 years without a write-up? So it does seem he's gotten it under control. He's really has accomplished a lot, having all of those letters and all those people backing him. And this is a case where I'm like, what more were you gonna do? You were gonna say, no, you need to take more programs. You're not remorseful enough. I don't think you're gonna succeed on the outside. No, I think that he checks all those boxes of going to be successful. He can do more in the community out there. He can talk to young kids. I do think he's going to do well, and he's not going to reoffend. So when I unpack it in that way, I'm very happy for him, for his family, and I think that and was his mother said this? She thanks God that he went to Angola, and that's the truth. Because if he hadn't gone, he wouldn't be this man. So that is proof. The prison system. Working in this case, in this scenario, doing true rehabilitation. He's coming out a better man than when he came in. That's pretty amazing. So, love to hear your thoughts. I know this is always controversial when a life is taken. Many of you feel that one should never be paroled. And I always like to read those comments and see your perspective and hear from you directly. With that, I'll let you go.